Hi, my name is Jasmine, aka Black Girl Absolute. Today's video is going to be a Tutorial Tuesday video. I'm going to show you how to varnish an acrylic painting, otherwise doing a finishing seal on it, using my boyfriend's Christmas gift as an example. So yeah, let's jump right in. So there are a few ways that you can varnish a painting. I think one of the techniques that I tried very early on was doing sort of my own varnish, which was like a Denmark varnish. Where you had to have like a bunch of different ingredients, put them together, let them sit for a while. It was a lot more complicated and just a lot more effort than I was willing to give for that process. And the results were kind of like, okay. So I like using pre-mixed, ready to go varnish concoctions. And so the two that I've used would be a spray paint varnish. Not so much my favorite anymore, but this is an option. It's probably the easiest application of a varnish that you can find, specifically a UV solution. Why UV is important is that you want to protect your paintings from UV lights will affect the pigments of your paints and they sort of fade over time. That's why something that has specific UV protection is really important. The technique that I'm going to do today is like a tiny bit more complicated, but I promise you it's going to be just fine. The process I'm going to be doing today is painting on the varnish. So you have a couple options whenever it comes to the varnish. So the two that I have today are gloss varnish and matte varnish. I believe there's also a semi-gloss varnish finish. If you're going for a matte varnish, it's basically going to look like nothing is there. With a gloss varnish, depending on the angle, if there's, light coming in like directly on top of it or from the side, you might see a little bit of a shine on the painting. So it's kind of just dependent on your own personal preference. Two materials that you want to have on hand. First is a filbert brush. So these are gigantic, really soft, fluffy brushes. You want to have something like this. Mine is a little bit dirty here on the metal, so ignore that, please. But why these brushes are very helpful is that you want to make sure that you're getting a nice even spread with the varnish. You don't want a ton of brush strokes because it'll make the final product look cloudy, which is something you definitely do not want. And then probably the most important ingredient that you need in order to make this work, aside from the varnish, of course, is going to be your brush cleaner. Again, just like varnishing a canvas, you want to make sure that the products you're using are staying healthy over time. And so something like a brush cleaner is going to make sure that your filbert brush is usable after, one or two varnishes. I was bad one time and didn't immediately clean off my filbert brush after varnishing. And what ended up happening is this just became a solid chunk of bristles where, I couldn't get any sort of movement. And so I had to go back in with my brush cleaner and just scrub the life out of this to get all of the varnish off. Do not make the same mistake that I did. It was hours of work just to get back to this, so please make sure that you're taking care of your brushes. All right, and so now we'll get started. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're working on a clean surface. So you want to make sure you're not getting any sort of dust, debris, any sort of pet hairs, which for me is a concern with Sophia. You want to just make sure that you're working with as clean a slate as possible. Now that this area is clean, we're just gonna lay the painting down completely horizontally. So it's important to make sure that your painting is completely flat if you're using this method. You don't want any sort of streaks from the varnish running down on top of the surface of your painting. So yeah, you just want to make sure that it's all completely flat for these purposes. Now, whenever I'm varnishing, I like to just use the bottoms of water bottles, just because you don't necessarily want to keep the varnish after you're done. Once it's exposed to oxygen, it kind of becomes unusable after a while. It's also a neat way that I can reuse bottles. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with gloss for this painting, so I'm gonna put the matte away. So an important thing to keep in mind whenever you're varnishing a painting is to do so in layers. I will sort of bounce back and forth between doing 2 or 3 coats. You want to make sure that it dries for at least 2 hours in between coats, just to make sure that you're really not muddying the layers. And this ensures that you have a nice protective finish that's going to last for a very long time. You just want to make sure that you're doing long strokes across the surface. And if you see any bubbles, just try to, again, very slowly go over the surface again, and that'll help to pop or move them off to the side. Again, the really important thing that you want to keep in mind is that you are not too vigorously going back over the same sections, because again, that's where you get the really cloudy look in your varnish, and that does not look great. Whenever you're varnishing, you want to make sure you're checking the corners, because if you have any varnish that sort of pulls up, it's going to pull up around your four corners of the canvas. So you want to make sure you're just looking down the side of the canvas, making sure that you're not getting too much pulling, and if you are, just sort of spread it back over in the same direction that you're painting. So this is good for a first coat. If you're noticing any like really small sections that haven't been varnished, do not go back over it with varnish just yet. On your second coat of varnish, you're absolutely going to cover those areas that you missed the first time, so don't worry about it. So I'm going to put this over by the window so that it has time to dry. Also, the place that you're drying gets the same treatment. You want to make sure that you're wiping it down and that there's no sort of dust, debris, or anything over that's going to sort of be on top of your painting as it's drying. In about 2 to 3 hours, I'm going to go and do another coat of varnish on that painting. After that coat, I'm going to let it fully cure for about 24 to 48 hours just to make sure that everything has set properly. After that 24 to 48 hour period, it is good to go. You can hang it up and not worry about, sunlight, wind, dust, debris, anything ruining it after that point. Once you're done varnishing, you just want to take your varnish brush, get it nice and wet with water, and then just swirl it around. After that, it's going to form a really nice lather that you can massage through the bristles and then rinse it out, and it should be good to go. You might have to repeat that process like 2 or 3 times, but it really shouldn't take more than that. If you have any other tutorials that you would like me to do regarding acrylic painting, just let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, send me a like. Also, let me know in the comments if you liked it. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Thank you for spending some time to hang out with me today. If you are new to my channel, hi, how you doing? Jesus Christ, I'm so awkward. If you are a new subscriber, or just someone new visiting my channel, hi, thank you for coming to visit, coming to watch my video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, just push the subscribe button down below. I also have some other videos on different subjects, so check them out. As always, you are enough. I love you all, and I hope you take care.